Judge laughs at crying veteran in court, but has no idea who's about to walk in. You ever seen a grown man in uniform break down in front of a judge only to get laughed at like he was putting on a show? Yeah, that happened. And let me tell you, nobody in that courtroom had a clue who was about to walk through those doors or how it was going to flip everything upside down. It started like any other stuffy, slow-churn morning at the Jefferson County Courthouse. Those marble columns out front, they make you feel small the second you walk in. Inside, it smelled like old wood, old paper, and the kind of fear folks try to swallow when they know their life might change in the next hour. The benches were packed, some faces looking hopeful, others like they'd already given up. But when Judge Hamilton tapped his gavel that morning, it cracked through the air like a gunshot. And there he was, Michael Winters, slouched in the defendant's seat like he was carrying the whole damn war on his shoulders. He was only 42, but you'd have thought he was pushing 60. Hands shaking, shirt too loose on him like he'd lost 20 pounds of sleep. You could tell this guy didn't belong there. Not really. Not in a courtroom. Maybe in a clinic, maybe in a meeting with other vets, but not here. Michael had been a local hero once. Star quarterback, firefighter volunteer, class president. And then he signed up, went to war 3 tours in Afghanistan. Came back with a leg full of shrapnel and a head full of ghosts. PTSD's one thing, but losing your brothers, watching your buddies die, and trying to stitch yourself back together with duct tape and VA hotlines, that does something to a man. And the reason he was sitting there that day trespassing and disturbing the peace wasn't about some drunken brawl or loitering. He stood outside a politician's house, the same guy who had promised Sepramized back a bill to fund a PTSD treatment center. Then he turned around and voted no. Michael didn't throw a rock, didn't curse. He just stood there holding a sign, hoping maybe, just maybe, that man would come outside and look him in the eye. He never did, but he did press charges. Now here's where it gets ugly. Judge Hamilton, this guy, had a reputation. Cold, harsh, never served. Some folks said he dodged the draft. All we know is he never missed a chance to flex from that bench. And when Michael's court-appointed attorney fresh out of law school, nervous but sharp, stood up and asked for leniency, that man didn't even blink. This court doesn't give out brownie points for job titles, he said. Like military service was a career choice, not a sacrifice. But Michael, he wasn't about to sit there and be painted as some hooligan. Your Honor, he said, voice cracking, 22 veterans kill themselves every day. I've already buried 4 of my friends. The whole courtroom went dead silent except for the judge, who let out this bitter little laugh like he was tired of hearing sob stories. Save the theatrics for Veterans Day, he said, and that was the moment everything changed. Michael's lawyer, her name was Sarah. She took a step back and whispered to someone outside the door. She turned to the judge and said, "We'd like to call a character witness." Judge rolled his eyes. "You've got 5 minutes." Then the doors opened, and in walked a tall man in full dress blues, metal shining like fire under those dusty beams of sunlight. But it wasn't just the uniform, it was the way he walked. Or rather, the way he didn't. The man had a prosthetic leg. You could hear the metal click on the tile as he moved. It was Colonel James Harrington, a name Michael hadn't heard since Kandahar. The room shifted. Folks sat up straighter. Even the bailiff looked alert. Colonel Harrington took the stand like he belonged there, like that courtroom had been waiting for him. And when he started speaking, it was like somebody turned the volume of truth all the way up. "Staff Sergeant Winters saved my life," he said. "Our convoy was hit. My vehicle caught fire. I was trapped. He ran through enemy fire, pulled me out, and carried me half a mile to the evac point while bleeding himself. That man over there, he didn't just serve. He gave." Michael looked down. He couldn't meet the colonel's eyes. You could see the memory playing out in his mind like a movie he'd seen too many times, except this one. He couldn't pause. The judge tried to shut it down. "Commendable, Colonel," he said. "But this doesn't excuse his actions." But the colonel wasn't done. After coming home, he said, Michael started a peer support group. Paid for it himself. Helped dozens of vets find jobs, get clean, talk through things. When the local VA fell behind, he volunteered 40 hours a week to help clear backlog benefits. Sarah handed the judge a folder thick with letters, real letters, handwritten or typed up, from veterans who said Michael kept them alive. And that's when it happened. The courtroom doors opened again, and walked a line of veterans. Wheelchairs, canes, prosthetic limbs, and eyes full of fire. One after another, wearing black T-shirts that said, "Veterans stand together." They didn't say a word, just stood there, present, powerful. The judge snap-banged his gavel, told the bailiff to remove them. But even the bailiff didn't move. Sarah stood her ground. They're not disrupting anything. They're observing. Then, silence fell again. Another wheelchair entered, this one with an old man in it, pushed by a woman who looked like she might be his daughter. He wore a World War II veteran's cap. And when Colonel Harrington saw him, he stood. Michael stood. Even the audience stood. Judge Hamilton looked confused, then pale, because that old man, that was Major General Robert Hamilton, his own father. The courtroom practically held its breath as the general spoke. "Richard," he said, his voice frail but clear, "I raised you better than this." The judge's hands trembled. "Father, this isn't. I fought at Normandy," the old man said. "And I didn't fight for a country where veterans are mocked in open court, especially not by my son." And at that right, there was the punch that landed. Harrington stepped back in. "No one's asking for a free pass," he said. "Just context. Just justice that doesn't ignore character." The judge called a recess. Disappeared into chambers, and the courtroom buzzed like a beehive. Michael sat in shock. "How did you find Harrington?" he asked Sarah. "I read your file. Found his name. Tracked him down last night. He drove 3 hours to be here." When the judge returned, his tone was different, like someone had replaced the man with a humbled copy. "Mr. Winters," he said, "tell me in your own words, how'd you go to that senator's house?" Michael didn't hesitate. "Because I promised my friends who died that I'd look after the ones who made it home. And I told those friends here that help was coming. When that senator changed his vote, he broke more than a promise. He broke hope." "And your sign?" the judge asked. "It said, 'Keep your promise. Veterans are dying waiting.'" The judge nodded slowly. "Mr. Winters, you trespassed. The law is clear. But this court has discretion." He paused. "You're guilty, but I'm sentencing you to probation and community service. Specifically, continuing your support group, which I'm now formally recognizing as a court-approved program." The room gasped, but he wasn't done. "I'm also donating $10,000 to your program, and I encourage others to follow suit." Reporters ran out the door. The story was everywhere by that night. And by the next day, it had gone national. Senator Davis? He folded under the pressure, reintroduced the bill, with more funding. 6 months later, they broke ground on the new PTSD treatment center. Michael cut the ribbon. Colonel Harrington took over as director. Sarah still helped veterans with legal aid. And Judge Hamilton? He didn't go back to his old ways. He launched a veterans treatment court, one of the first in the state. Michael stood at the center's opening ceremony a year later. He told the crowd, "I came home fighting a different war. One against silence, against forgetting, against shame." He looked toward the general, frail now, but proud. Toward the judge, who had changed. Toward the crowd, veterans, families, officials. "This place," he said, "proves we're not invisible. Our pain matters. Our stories matter. We matter." And that night, Michael sat on a bench outside, phone buzzing in his hand. A vet in crisis. Texted the support line. He answered. "You're not alone, brother," he said. "It gets better. Sometimes all it takes is showing up, even if your hands are shaking." Because that's what courage looks like, not medals or speeches. Just one soul saying to another, "I see you. I've been there. Let's walk this road together." So what do you think was justice served? Did the judge do enough? Did Michael break the law or uphold something bigger than the law? Let us know below. What does loyalty look like to you, and what would you have done if someone broke their promise to those who bled for this country?